As the colossal waves surged upward, a question loomed in the air. What horrors lay hidden beneath the surface of Miller's turbulent waters? Dr. Kalis Vorin, the leader of an ambitious interstellar expedition, stood transfixed, his heart racing, as he witnessed the moment when time itself seemed to fracture. Memories, snippets of laughter, whispered regrets, and glimpses of a future untold swirled around him like leaves caught in a tempest, each fragment a reminder of the fragile boundary between existence and oblivion. Miller, a planet draped in mystery and cloaked in the shadows of its proximity to the black hole Gargantua, was a world unlike any other. Its vast, unending oceans reflected the cosmos above, shimmering with a beauty that belied the dangers lurking beneath. For Kalis and his team of scientists and explorers, this desolate paradise held the promise of discovery, yet they knew all too well that time here twisted and warped, transforming mere minutes into years. The legends they had unearthed spoke of a civilization long lost, one that had harnessed the very fabric of time itself. But what had those ancient masters of time unleashed? As the team descended deeper into Miller's chaotic embrace, strange occurrences began to unfold. The air thickened with an unsettling tension. The once familiar rhythm of their mission unraveled into chaos. One by one, members of the crew vanished without a trace, swallowed by the relentless tides of time. Kalis felt the weight of his own, past pressing down upon him, a family torn apart by the very forces he now sought to understand. The echoes of his childhood, marred by loss and regret, reverberated in the recesses of his mind, mingling with the urgent need to save his team from the planet's grasp. The environment itself seemed to pulse with a life of its own, its waters, alive with whispers of the past. Jagged cliffs loomed like ancient guardians, their surfaces etched with the scars of time and tide. The eerie glow of phosphorescent algae illuminated the dark waters, casting an otherworldly light that danced like specters on the surface. Each wave that crashed against the shore felt like a heartbeat, rhythmically reminding Kalis of the urgency of their mission and the creeping dread of what waited just beyond the horizon. As the team struggled to maintain their grip on reality, Kalis could not shake the feeling that they were not alone. Shadows flitted at the edges of his vision, and the air crackled with an energy that sent shivers down his spine. The legends spoke of an ancient consciousness that resided within the depths of Miller, a being that could manipulate time and reality to its whim. Was this the source of the disturbances? Had they unwittingly awakened a force beyond their comprehension? But when night fell, something inexplicable happened. The ocean, once a tumultuous cauldron, lay still as glass. A chilling silence enveloped the expedition, and the stars above flickered ominously. Kalis felt an inexplicable pull, an urge to venture further into the unknown, where the line between his own memories and the fabric of time blurred dangerously. The deeper he delved into the mysteries of Miller, the more he realized that the key to survival lay not just in unraveling the planet's enigmas, but in confronting the shadows of his own past that threatened to consume him. As Kalis Vorin stood at the edge of the still ocean, the weight of the silence pressed heavily upon him. His crew, once a vibrant tapestry of ambition and camaraderie, now felt like threads unraveling in the face of an unspeakable force. The mysterious stillness of Miller's waters was an unsettling contrast to the chaos they had faced just hours before. The air hummed with an energy that made hairs stand on end, and Kalis struggled to make sense of it all. Beside him, Dr. Lena Tyrrell, the mission's astrobiologist, stared into the depths with wide, frightened eyes. Her fascination with the alien life forms of Miller had driven her to pursue this expedition. Yet now, as shadows danced just beneath the surface, that fascination had morphed into terror. "Kalis," she whispered, her voice trembling, "we shouldn't be here. Something is wrong. I can feel it." Kalis turned to her, his heart aching with the burden of leadership. He had promised them discovery, yet here they stood, teetering on the brink of madness. Lena's fear echoed his own, but he couldn't afford to show it. We need to regroup and assess our situation. We can't let fear dictate our actions, he urged, though he could feel the cracks forming in his resolve. Just as he spoke, a piercing scream shattered the silence. The sound reverberated across the stillness, sending a jolt through the entire team. Kalis instinctively grabbed Lena's arm, their eyes darting toward the source of the scream. A figure emerged from the shadows. Marcus, the ship's engineer, his face pale and eyes wild. He stumbled toward them, gasping for breath. I saw something, he stammered, his words tumbling out in a frantic rush. It was like a ghost. It reached for me. The crew gathered around, their expressions a mix of confusion and dread. Kalis felt the weight of their collective fear bearing down on him. What do you mean, Marcus? What did you see? It was my father, Marcus said, trembling. He died years ago, but it looked just like him. It spoke to me, telling me to come closer. His voice broke, swallowed by the enormity of his revelation. Kalis exchanged worried glances with Lena. The legends had mentioned echoes of the past, but he had dismissed them as mere folklore. Yet, here they were, confronted with the inexplicable. We need to stay focused, Kalis said, though a part of him wondered if they were already too late. As the night deepened, the atmosphere thickened with tension. Each member of the crew grappled with their own demons. Lena, haunted by her own past failures as a scientist, felt the pressure of expectation weighing on her shoulders. She had always sought approval, but now, in this alien world, she questioned her worth. What if we're not meant to be here, Kalis, she murmured, her voice barely audible over the lapping waves. What if we're just pawns in a game? We don't understand. Kalis felt the urge to comfort her, to reassure her that they were not alone in this struggle. But he too felt the shadows creeping closer, whispering doubts into his mind. We can't give in to despair, he replied, his voice steadier than he felt. We have to confront whatever this is together. But as they spoke, the ocean began to stir once more, its surface roiling as if alive. The phosphorescent algae pulsed ominously, casting eerie shadows that twisted into grotesque shapes. Kalis felt a pull toward the depths, an irresistible lure that beckoned him to uncover the truth. We need to go back to the ship, he commanded, though his own uncertainty gnawed at him. We need to regroup and come up with a plan. Yet, as they turned to leave, a low rumble echoed from the depths of the ocean, an ominous reminder that Miller was not finished with them yet. The ground beneath their feet trembled, and Kalis knew that the true test of their resolve was just beginning. The mysteries of Miller were unraveling, and with them, the shadows of their own pasts threatened to consume them all. The ocean's rumble deepened, vibrating through the air and rattling the crew's nerves. As Kalis stood frozen, the chilling realization dawned upon him. This was not merely an expedition gone awry, it was a confrontation with something that transcended understanding. The shadows beneath the waves seemed to whisper his name, taunting him with secrets he thought he had buried long ago. Kalis. Lena's voice broke through his reverie, pulling him back to the present. Look! She pointed towards the water, where the bioluminescent glow intensified, swirling into intricate patterns that formed fleeting images, faces, places, memories that felt achingly familiar. Kalis squinted, his heart racing as he recognized the fleeting visage of his younger sister, Mira. She had vanished 10 years prior during a storm while sailing near the coast of his hometown. The pain of that loss had haunted him, driving him toward the stars in search of purpose. But now, the very ocean seemed to conjure her ghost. Is this some kind of sick joke? He muttered, feeling the ground beneath him shift as if it were alive. Doubt crept in, gnawing at the edges of his sanity. Was he truly seeing her? Or was this a manifestation of his own guilt, a trick played by the malevolent force of Miller? Lena's expression mirrored his horror, as she too began to see the apparitions. "My mother," she whispered, her eyes glistening with tears. "She died in a lab accident when I was a child. I've spent my whole career trying to prove myself, to make her proud, but now—" Her voice trailed off, the weight of her past crashing down around her. Kalis grasped Lena's arm, grounding himself in the reality of her fear. "We can't let it manipulate us," he urged, though his own resolve was faltering. He was losing. The battle against the memories that clawed at him, threatening to drag him back into a darkness he fought so hard to escape. "Maybe it's not manipulation," Marcus interjected, his voice low but insistent. "What if it's trying to communicate? What if it's a warning? Something is awakening in the depths, and we're not meant to be here." A shiver ran down Kalis's spine as he considered Marcus's words. The ocean was alive, and it was, stirring not just with memories, but with an unresolved tension that connected them all. He felt the pull of the water, the call of the past mingling with the unknown futures that lay ahead. Suddenly, the surface erupted, and a massive creature breached, its form both mesmerizing and terrifying. It glimmered in the moonlight, a kaleidoscope of colors swirling across its scales. Kalis was paralyzed, caught between awe and fear. "Get back!" he shouted, instinctively stepping in front of Lena and Marcus as the creature's gaze locked onto them, shimmering with an intelligence that sent chills racing down his spine. The air thickened with urgency, and Kalis's instincts screamed that they were no longer just explorers. They were intruders in a world that demanded respect and understanding. Just then, the ground shook violently, and an explosion of water sprayed into the air, revealing a hidden chasm beneath the waves. The creature dove into it, and the ocean roared, as if in protest. The crew stumbled back, their unity fracturing under the weight of the revelation that Miller was not just a planet. It was a living entity, one that held their pasts, and perhaps their fates, in its grasp. Kalis's heart raced. They had ventured here seeking discovery, but now they were entangled in a web of mysteries far beyond their comprehension. As the shadows of their pasts loomed larger, a new question emerged. What would they sacrifice to uncover the truth? The ocean's roar crescendoed, drowning out all rational thought as Kalis stood on the precipice of understanding and dread. The creature, an embodiment of the ocean's ancient power, hovered just below the surface, its eyes shimmering with an unsettling awareness. Time seemed to stretch, each heartbeat reverberating in the silence that enveloped them, amplifying the unspoken fears shared between the crew. "Kalis!" Lena's voice pierced through the chaos as she grasped his arm tighter. "We need to get out of here!" Her eyes, wide and glistening, reflected both terror and the weight of unresolved grief. Kalis felt the urgency in her grip, but his gaze remained fixed on the creature, which was now rising slowly, as if judging them. "Wait," he breathed, feeling a strange connection to the entity that transcended fear. "It's trying to tell us something." The water shimmered with echoes of the past, visions of lost loved ones swirling like phantoms in the depths. Kalis felt the pull of those memories, the ache of regret and longing intertwining with the creature's presence. "Don't listen to it," Marcus shouted, his voice cracking with desperation. "It's a trap. It knows our weaknesses." The tension in Marcus's tone conveyed a raw fear, one that cut through the emotional haze enveloping Kalis. The scientist, who had initially seemed so grounded, now appeared ready to abandon reason for self-preservation. Kalis turned his focus back to the creature, now fully emerging from the water, its massive form casting an imposing shadow over the deck. He could see its scales reflecting not just the moonlight, but the flickering images of his sister, of Lena's mother, of every haunting memory he had tried to outrun. "It's not a trap, Marcus. It's a mirror, showing us what we need to confront," he replied, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. With a sudden surge, the creature breached the surface fully, revealing its immense wings, each scale a tapestry of their pasts. The ocean roared, and Kalis felt the ground tremble beneath him. "Face your fears," he shouted, as if the words could somehow anchor them to the present and pull them away from the abyss of despair. Lena stepped forward, her voice trembling yet resolute. "We can't let it consume us. We have to find a way to connect." Her courage sparked something in Kalis, a realization that they were not just victims of their past, but participants in a larger narrative. But just then, Marcus lunged forward, driven by a primal instinct to flee. "No, we can't stay here. We're not ready." As he stumbled back, he inadvertently brushed against a control panel, sending a cascade of sparks flying. The energy crackled in the air, mingling with the ocean's depths, igniting a reaction that sent shockwaves through the water. The creature let out a guttural roar, its gaze locking onto Marcus with a fierce intensity. The air thickened with tension, and Kalis felt the weight of their collective choices: fear versus connection, denial versus acceptance. Time hung in the balance as the ocean swirled around them, a living entity demanding recognition of their deepest scars. "Don't run," Kalis cried, his voice echoing above the chaos. "This is our chance." He stepped forward, defiance coursing through him. The moment stretched, a fragile thread binding their fates to the unknown depths. Though the creature loomed large, Kalis felt a flicker of hope ignite within him, a belief that perhaps they could confront their pasts and emerge transformed. As the creature's eyes glinted with an ancient wisdom, Kalis knew they were at a crossroads. Would they confront the shadows of their lives, or would they retreat into the safety of ignorance? The choice lay before them, and the ocean was holding its breath, waiting for their answer. As the tension reached its breaking point, Kalis took one last step forward, his heart pounding like a war drum. The creature's gaze bore into him, a swirling maelstrom of ancient knowledge and raw emotion. With every ounce of courage he could muster, he embraced the memories that surged forth: his sister's laughter, Lena's comforting words, the faces of those they had lost. He reached out, not with fear, but with a yearning to connect. In that moment, the ocean erupted. Waves crashed against the ship, and the creature unleashed a howl that echoed through the very marrow of their bones. Kalis felt a visceral shockwave ripple through him, as if the sea had opened its vault of secrets, pressing them into the forefront of their minds. The air thickened, swirling with mist, and memories that clung to their skin like the salt of the ocean. And then, silence. The creature, now hovering just above the surface, began to dissolve into a cascade of shimmering water, its form breaking apart like a dream at dawn. The last vestiges of its presence left a haunting resonance in the air, a reminder of the confrontation they had just endured. Kalis glanced at Lena, whose expression had transformed from terror to resolve. They had faced the depths of their fears together, but the victory was bittersweet. Kalis could feel the weight of the experience pressing down on him, leaving behind emotional scars that would take time to heal. He had glimpsed the raw power of his grief, and while he had survived, it had changed him irrevocably. He was no longer just Kalis. He was a man forged in the fires of loss and acceptance. Lena stepped closer, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "What just happened?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Something ancient," Kalis replied, his own voice thick with emotion. "We confronted our pasts, but I can't shake the feeling that it's not over. There's more we don't understand." Marcus, who had fallen to his knees, looked up, his face pale but resolute. "We survived, but what if it comes back? What if we're not done?" His voice trembled, revealing the cracks in his bravado. Kalis nodded, acknowledging the unspoken truth that lingered in the air. They had escaped the immediate danger, but there were unresolved mysteries that hung over them like a storm cloud. The ocean, with its depth still uncharted, seemed to pulse with untold stories, waiting for the right moment to emerge. As they gathered themselves, a distant sound echoed across the water, a low, mournful song that tugged at the edges of their consciousness. It felt like a call, a reminder that while they had faced one fear, the ocean still held countless others. Kalis exchanged a wary glance with Lena, a silent acknowledgement of the bond they had forged through shared trauma. "Let's get back to the others," he said, his voice steady despite the tumult of emotions swirling within him. "We need to prepare for what's next." But as they turned away from the water, Kalis couldn't shake the feeling that the creature's gaze lingered on them, its essence entwined with their fate. They had survived, but the ocean was vast, and its mysteries were far from over. The horizon stretched before them, beckoning with the promise of new adventures and deeper truths yet to be discovered. And as they made their way back, Kalis felt a stirring within him, a sense that their story was only beginning. As Kalis and his companions made their way back from the edge of the ocean, an unsettling shift began to envelop them. The world around them flickered like a candle caught in a draft, and Kalis felt the very fabric of reality twist. The vibrant hues of the sunset bled into shades of gray, and the air thickened with an unnerving stillness. Suddenly, time itself seemed to halt. They stood on the deck, the ship frozen in mid-motion, the waves around them suspended like glass. Kalis looked to Lena and Marcus, their faces etched with confusion and fear. "What's happening?" he whispered, but no answer came. The mournful song from earlier returned, echoing around them, and Kalis realized with a chilling clarity that they were trapped in a loop, ensnared by the very essence of the ocean they had confronted. It was as if the creature's howl had woven a tapestry of their fears into the threads of time, binding them to an endless cycle of their own making. Each wave that crashed against the ship seemed to whisper memories of their past, moments of joy, sorrow, and loss, reminding them of what they would never escape. In that moment of realization, the nostalgia of their lives washed over them, like an overwhelming tide, pulling them deeper into an abyss of despair. They were victims of time, destined to relive this confrontation, this pain, forever. The horizon, once a promise of adventure, now loomed like a prison wall, a stark reminder of the fate that awaited them. As the sun slipped below the horizon, casting the world into twilight, Kalis felt an icy grip around his heart. The ocean had claimed them, and there would be no escape from the memories that haunted them, nor the cycle that bound them. With a heavy heart, he turned to Lena and Marcus, their eyes mirroring his own sense of helplessness, and whispered, "We are trapped." The darkness enveloped them, a chilling certainty settling in. They were not merely survivors, they were now echoes in a timeless void. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Share with your friends so they can also embark on this mystery-filled adventure. Leave a comment below telling us your favorite part or what kind of ending you'd like to see in a future story.